Welcome to the Bodybuilding Banter podcast, your number one source of all things bodybuilding. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date on future episodes. Now, here's your host, Leroy Rollins.
What's happening, people? Welcome to the Bodybuilding Banter podcast. I am here with Bikini athlete, owner of Hemp Labs Brantford, which is something we're going to talk about because I'm interested in hearing what that's all about. Colby, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Introduce yourself to the people and tell them what you're all about.
All right, so I'm a bikini competitor, also an online coach, and owner of a CBD company local to Brantford, where I live. It's about an hour and a half-ish out of Toronto. I'm not very exciting. I don't know what else to tell you.
Sweet. Okay, let's talk competing first. How long? When'd you start? What got you into it? All that juicy stuff.
All right, so I started about 3-4 years ago now. I got into it because I was just into lifting in general, so I figured that was pretty much the only place to go. Once I learned about nutrition, I was like, hey, what's next? And that was where I ended up. So, and then I got hooked on it, and here I am, like 6 shows later.
Nice. That's awesome. So what's your show history? Let's go back to the first one.
Well, my very first show, I self-coached and ended up taking an overall title, which was both a blessing and a curse, because it made me think that I was awesome and that I could do it all on my own, which actually was not the case. So my next year, I did go to nationals. I knew I wasn't ready for it yet, and I'm still not.
Yeah.
But so I got 9th there, and then I did a regional and placed 2nd. And then last year, I did 3 shows, not faring very well in any of them, because my body's just been too much year after year. I'm kind of just digging a hole that I can't crawl out of. So This year, I'm not sure yet what my plans are. I kind of don't care if I do or don't compete. So
Interesting.
To be determined.
So touch on what winning an overall in the first show did to your kind of mindset and everything like that. You touched on it a little bit, but I think that's super interesting because that doesn't happen to a lot of people. But I didn't win the overall, but I had a pretty good run in my first series of shows where like I didn't lose. And I think that it kind of gives you a skewed perspective on maybe where you fall in the totem pole, right?
Yeah, so it was awesome. It was the best thing in the world. And like I went into that show just thinking I was going to be happy to place top 5, and I knew I was good enough to do that.
Yep.
Especially when I was coaching myself and literally had no idea what I was doing. So, and then, I won the whole thing, and then I realized, wow, I wouldn't have been happy if I hadn't won the whole thing. And then, the next 5 shows after that, I was like, hey, it was very humbling. I was like, I'm not as great as I thought I was.
Yeah, for sure. So how did that first prep go by yourself? Like,
It was awesome.
Where did you get your information?
It was the best prep I've ever had.
Really?
So far, yeah. Like, my body just responded so well to it. Maybe it was because I had never put my body through that before.
Yep.
So it was easy for me to get lean, and I felt great the whole time. And so that messed up my perspective as well of how kind of easy prep could be, because it is not. It can be much worse.
Yeah, so you kind of touched on like how it's kind of gotten potentially worse the last little bit, right? Like you said that every show now it's gotten harder. Your placing has kind of dictated that, and that you've maybe burnt yourself out a little bit. What do you think is kind of the cause of all that?
I think it's just my body personally. It takes a lot for me to put muscle on, and when I diet down most of the time, I kind of just burn off anything that I did manage to put on.
Right.
So just comes down to body type, I guess.
Yep. So what would you say is kind of the biggest differences between like your last like 2 preps versus when you did it yourself?
just my ability to burn fat instead of muscle. Really, I haven't been able to get to the proper level of conditioning, but also keep my muscle mass on.
Right.
So I already have a plan for my next go and how I'm going to try to, it's always a learning experience.
Nice.
So,
are you still self-coached or no?
I have worked with a coach, but I think I do prefer to self-coach. As crazy as it is, it's part of the fun for me. So
now, what do you think is the most attractive part of being self-coached? Because that's an interesting take.
I like my own methods, I guess,
Yeah.
And I really don't do well with being told what to do. Whenever I get to learn like someone else's way of doing things and I don't agree with it, I'm like, I can't make myself do this. So then I'm just not listening to the coach. And then it's like, why do I have one? So really, I'm just stubborn and I hate myself for it, but
the struggle.
yeah.
So tell me about your business now. Find that interesting.
We want to know.
I don't know. What is like hemp labs and that kind of stuff? Like, what do you primarily do? What do you sell?
So we sell CBD products. We've got everything from oils to topical creams, gummies. We have new products in the works as well. Just
cool. Do you think there's place for that stuff for competitors?
Oh yeah, absolutely. For me, so I got into it because I've battled with severe anxiety, really only during prep for the most part.
Right.
Or when things like quarantine happen, that can trigger it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I know a lot of competitors too who deal with anxiety when they're deep into prep, and that makes everything so much worse. It takes such a toll on your body, and things need to be functioning so smoothly on prep for your body to respond properly. So I think it can definitely be helpful.
Nice. What do you use the most of then? Like, do you use like drops before bed, or what's your usage?
Currently, I'm into the gummies because they're really good. But yes, for maximum effectiveness, I usually go for our highest dose drops.
Interesting. And you don't have any ill effects from it from a prep perspective?
Oh no, it doesn't make you feel anything.
Yep.
Which is it's almost disappointing because you want to feel like it's working, but yeah, it's about what you don't feel. So
that's interesting. No, that's super cool because I think like the science of how to make preps better is evolving a little bit, and stuff like that I think can be really helpful probably for some people, especially if like you mentioned like anxiety, or I mean probably most people who prep know that sleep goes to shit eventually, so stuff that can help you sleep would probably be huge from like a recovery perspective. So
yeah, and it improves recovery as well. So yeah, there are so many benefits.
That's sweet. So let's go into prep a little bit. What's your time frame? How does everything go? Ups and downs? Let's get into that a bit.
Time frame? I mean, it depends how my off season goes.
Yep.
I usually do anywhere between 15 to 20 weeks.
Yep.
Prep. Starts off pretty easy. I stay away from cardio until usually the last like 6 or 7 weeks, and then start just adding in a little bit.
Yep.
Ups and downs. I lose my strength pretty quickly, so that's pretty detrimental.
That would go with you like having a hard time maintaining muscle too, right? If your strength goes, then it's gonna go with it.
Exactly. And for me, so I don't know how many people deal with this, but I'm HSP. So it stands for highly sensitive persons. So basically what that means is I have a really strong reaction to any kind of stimulus. Okay. So it doesn't take me very long in prep until I get to a point where like I can't even have caffeine anymore. So which most people are like living off in the end of their prep to just keep them going. So I don't have that. And my body just feels like everyone feels terrible in prep, but then people that deal with this have it like tenfold, just feel that much worse. So, yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know.
And yet you still continue to compete. I find that.
Yeah, I can't explain that. It's definitely an addiction, an unhealthy one.
Yeah. Talk about, because I think this is something that people don't talk about, is like weird things you do on prep. Like, for example, what made me think of this was you said the caffeine. Like, I would have days where I would literally like fill my mammoth jug full of pre-workout and sip on that all day. Like, that's not good. Is there anything you had like that was just really like weird neurotic behavior that probably isn't good?
That sounds awesome, and I would definitely try that if I was able to.
Yeah.
I've never even taken pre-workout for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Anything weird that I do? I mean, I abuse the crap out of artificial sweeteners right up until show day.
Right.
Like Splenda and Walden Farm syrup, just anything that has 0 calories, I'm dousing everything in it to definitely unsafe levels.
Yeah, there's some stuff about that stuff not being overly good, like from a prep perspective, but probably like as a general health thing. Like, I can't pronounce some of the stuff that's in there, so I probably shouldn't be putting obscene amounts in my body.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel
I usually just tell myself that I'm gonna look good when I die from it, so.
I love it. That's true. With that trophy in hand, I'm gonna look.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk to me about your coaching business. How long have you been doing that? What's your demographic? How's it going right now? Because I'm sure, like all of us, it's a shit show.
Yes. So I started right after my first show, and I didn't really know that much what I was doing, but it went well. So it's improved over the years. Now I'm coaching competitors as well, and yeah, that's been the worst part of this whole situation for me. Is I had clients anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks out.
Yep.
And they got shafted, so it was awful. But for the most part, it's still going pretty well. Most of my clients are doing okay, and I already had quite a few on-home programs already. Okay. So that's fine. I've definitely learned a lot and can make home programs a lot better now.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a positive, I guess. I'm sure that you've experienced that as well.
Yeah, you've had to definitely think outside the box a little bit, and I don't know, just use your brain a little bit more, right? Because you don't have just like a series of equipment and dumbbells and freedom to just do whatever you want. Now you are very limited, so you have to be like, okay, how can I use this one band to train everything in some form or another, right? So, no, I agree.
Yeah.
There's been, as shitty as it is, like, as coaches, we've definitely at least gotten something out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
How are you managing with your training and stuff right now? Is it okay? Are you struggling?
I've been more sore than I have been from the gym in a long time. My dad and I collectively just spent like $700 right off the bat. Got a bench, a little universal gym.
Nice.
I have a barbell that has no weights on it, so that's useful.
Hey.
But yeah, mostly just you need the creativity aspect for sure, and yeah, I've been doing well.
Yeah, I think what's interesting too is, like, even subconsciously, where a lot of people get married to like 3 sets of 10, and that's what you do. That's always what you do. No ifs, ands, or buts. But like now, for many people, like 10 reps on most things isn't gonna do shit. So like I'm finding myself, for example, doing like 20, 30 rep sets, dying, and like you said, the next day being like, shit, like I'm sore because you're not used to it, right?
And I think the worst part is the cardiovascular effect of doing like 30 reps. Like, I don't know about you, but like I don't really do cardio in my off season because I don't like it, and now I'm being forced to Yeah, the workouts are just horrible, and I've realized why I like to train in like the 6 to 12 max rep range.
Yeah, like I've been starting like every leg workout with 2 minutes of lunges. I'll do like 2 minutes, rest 30 seconds, go 2 minutes. So I'll do like 3 or 4 sets. So it's like 8 minutes of lunges over the course of like 10 minutes total. And I'm dead. Like I'm like, holy shit, this is brutal. And then I'll get into like other stuff. So my legs are toast. And like you said, cardiovascularly, like I'm breathing.
Yeah.
How are you finding with kind of your competitor roster right now? How are people handling it? What was kind of I assume like most when their show was cut, they were pretty pissed.
Yes. Well, and then at first, right, we're like, okay, so here's the next available show that we'll work towards, and then that would get canceled. There was just so many times. So I mean, now we're shooting for like September. If that's even going to happen. And pretty much I just have everyone reverse dieting.
Yep.
I'm like, if they have a good enough home gym, anyways. Otherwise, they'll probably just end up fat. But so we're just going full reverse diet. Try to use this time to put some mass on if possible, and
hang on to everything too. Do you coach mostly just bikini?
Yes, and wellness.
Okay.
Same thing, really.
Is that out of preference or just who's come to you?
Both.
Yeah.
I guess.
No,
I would be open to doing another division. I wouldn't be very much help in the posing aspect, and I do take that on as well. For anyone, of course, I'm not a pro in that, and I would tell people that right off the bat. Like, if you want to get better professional help for posing, then you should.
Yep.
But I like to be able to offer as much help and kind of do everything that I'm able to. So it's easier with bikini and wellness. Yeah,
that's what you know, right? Like I have like bikini athletes too, and I'm very upfront to be like, look, I can't help you pose.
I can try, but
yeah, like I can like very much give you very basic information, but as far as like transitions and customizing it to your frame, like that's out of my league. I'm more than happy to help you find someone that can help you, but I'm not going to tell you that these glutes can help you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into a little Q&A. So we both had on our Instagram stories, which is what typically we do for these podcasts, is get some questions coming in because I think everybody's got a story to tell and some information that can be shared. So one of the first ones was one that you had, which is first steps for someone that wants to improve their eating habits. I don't know if this was from a friend of yours or a client, but just general recommendations on your end.
So the first thing I would recommend, which isn't everybody's cup of tea, would be to learn how to track your own calories. And I say this because I think people get too caught up in like, I don't know what foods to eat to lose weight. And there is no specific foods. It's literally anything that you can fit in your daily intake. Like obviously you want to gear towards more whole foods, but it's what's going to work for you and what's going to be sustainable long term. Like I like to intentionally have treats calculated into my day so that, I have something to look forward to before bed, or I think that that's really important. But I mean, if you didn't want to track calories, I guess I'd say to, first of all, make sure you increase your protein intake, because people just don't casually eat enough protein.
Yep.
Just the way it is, right? And then have high volume foods. So if there's like a big salad that you like, incorporate that. It'll make you feel fuller, which will make you eat less, I guess. Yeah.
Cool. I think another one too is just like an easy fix is cutting out like caloric beverages, right? Like if you can get rid of like pop, juice, like milk, any of that stuff, like you can easily cut out a couple hundred calories a day without changing your diet and just like focusing on drinking water and like adding in the little sweeteners and like the drops that can make it taste better. But like, if you just
that's a really good one. Liquid calories,
yeah, and like it's crazy. It's crazy how much it adds up. Like when you think of people that have like a Starbucks drink or like a double thing from Tim Hortons, like I don't drink any of that stuff, so I don't even know. But like I know there's drinks at Starbucks that are like 1,000 calories, right? So imagine the food you could eat in place of that, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good one.
For sure. Okay, next one is myths about prep. Anything that you've had people come to you and being like, is this how it is? And you're like, what are you talking about?
I mean, I think a lot of people think you have to eat straight like chicken and broccoli the whole time, which isn't true. In that sense, I think they think it's harder than it actually is, because I would never be able to do that. I don't know what else. Can you think of anything?
Yeah, like I'm just trying to think about that too. Like I think a lot of stuff that people think about prep is probably accurate in a sense. Like your social life takes a hit, you're pretty regimented with your eating, you're training a lot, all that kind of stuff. I think that people just assume everybody takes drugs, whether you're male, female, natural, enhanced, or whatever. Like I think people think to get to that shape, like there's shady stuff involved. I still get the steroid accusations when I post a pic from show day, and they're like, "Wow." I'm like, no. Like,
that's such a compliment.
Yeah, oh yeah, I take it.
It's my dream to be accused of being on steroids.
Yeah, but I think people think that it takes, to get to that level of like condition, it takes some shady behavior where it just really just takes a lot of suffering.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it comes down to genetics too, of course.
Yeah, it's not like not everybody can get into X amount of shape, right? Like some people have, take yourself for example, some people don't lose muscle as much as you might, right? It's totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. What was your biggest struggle on prep?
Just feeling absolutely horrible. Feeling like, honestly, that I'm dying. Like, as bad as it sounds, yeah, like, there were days where I felt like I was going to go to bed and not wake up the next day.
Have there been certain preps that have been worse than others in that sense?
Yes, my last prep was definitely the worst, but I don't think it helps to be prepping for like 4 months, 5 months, without coming out of it, and just keeping your body in that state is like for a prolonged period of time is just absolutely brutal.
Yep.
So yeah, it felt like my body kind of started eating its own organs before it was willing to burn any more fat. So I don't recommend.
What's the most extreme you've got with cardio being high and calories being low?
This would go between 2 different preps actually. So I had one prep where I got down to 1,100 calories at the end, and cardio was probably around 30 minutes. And then I had another prep where I think my calories were only around 1,300, and cardio got up to about 35 minutes, which for me, like, is a lot. And I know for some people they have to do like 2 hours, so it doesn't sound that bad. But then with how awful I feel, I think it kind of balances out.
Yeah, it's
and we all feel equally crappy. So
yeah, it's very individual, right? And like you can't take. That's why I hate when people ask like, "What are your macros?" I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like that doesn't apply anything to you. But no, you're right. Like some girls get down to like 1,900 on like on a low day, and like you said, maybe 2 hours of cardio a day. But that's the hand they're dealt, and if they want to get in appropriate shape, it is what it is. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it's the truth, right? Whereas for you, like maybe 1,100 is the equivalent to that 800 as far as how you feel, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it definitely is. Because I don't think you could actually feel any worse than I do in the tail end of prep, honestly. So, but yeah, I've had clients even come to me before, like, I want to work with you because, you know, so-and-so is on so many calories and my last coach did this to me. And I'm like, that's probably just what it takes for you.
Yep. Yeah.
If you don't like it, don't compete.
And that's true, and that's very simply put. If you don't like it, don't compete, because it's an extreme, right? Like, no one. I think that's kind of one of the biggest issues is people like see photos or see the smiles on stage, and like it's not easy, and it's there's a reason why it wasn't popular up until like 2 years ago. Like, no one knew about bodybuilding up until like a couple years ago. No one competed. The bikini class, there's like 3 girls, and now it's just everybody wants to do it. And then when it gets hard, or when people develop issues from it, they freak out, and it's like, yeah, like, it's not easy.
Yeah.
All right, I agree with you there. This was an interesting one. Have you ever suffered from any body image issues from competing?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if you can, like, not, to be honest, because you see yourself in such a state that, and it's sometimes for such a long time. Like, when I competed for so many months, you get so used to seeing yourself that way that, you know, you gain 10 pounds, which you would have still thought was lean before, but now you feel like a balloon. Yeah, and then on the other end of the spectrum, when you're like me, if you struggle with losing muscle and you've always wanted to kind of just be bigger, which was how I started out. I just wanted to grow.
Yep.
And so feeling like just skinny and everything, just, yeah, that mental aspect is hard too. And then you combine the two and, oh yeah, a whole bunch of body image issues.
Yeah, it's I think you're right. Like, I think in some form or another, everybody is going to have some kind of, like, issue, and it can vary greatly. Like, I would say, you know, giving myself, I wouldn't say I've necessarily come out of prep ever with, like, looking at myself in the mirror and being upset or frustrated or whatever. But, like, you just kind of develop those little quick, like, man, I'm not, like, where'd my abs go? Or, like, oh, I don't have that vein anymore. Or, like, you know, you catch yourself, like, pinching your stomach randomly, and you're like, oh, there's a little bit more there than there was a couple weeks ago, right? So it's I think it's a conversation that needs to be had very early and very upfront, and that's why, you know, these podcasts I hope are really valuable for people, because it's kind of par for the course, really, and you got to be ready. Like, if you're ready for it beforehand, you can move on with your life, right? But if it kind of just hits you like a bus, and all of a sudden you have all these psychological freakouts after the show, it's not good.
Yeah, you need to be in such a good mental space, like, rationally. You need to be able to see numbers on the scale going up and your body changing and not have any emotional attachment to it.
Yep.
Like, you can see it and acknowledge that it's there and be like, haha, this sucks, but you need to be in a good headspace, yeah. And a lot of people, I think especially girls, really, yeah.
And it's understanding that, like, the shape you get in is not sustainable. It's not healthy long term. It's for a very temporary, short period of time. And, like, if your goal, and, like, this is something I try to get across to people too, like, if your goal is to actually improve and progress within the sport, whether you want to take it to a pro level or you just want to get better as a competitor over time, like, you can't be 105 pounds anymore. You have to get up there, and you can't stay there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet. This was one that I had submitted, was what was your kind of driving factor to competing all those shows ago?
I saw a girl on Instagram compete, and it was like 2014. And yeah, so right then I decided that I kind of wanted to do it. I would practice posing and stuff. And 3 years later, when I felt like I was actually ready, is when I actually went for it.
Nice.
So yeah, it was Instagram. It was a random Instagram photo, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, that's a thing. And also my dad competed in like 2004, so I was there for that. Bikini division didn't exist yet, but I've just always, been super into muscles, I guess.
Nice. What would you say is your biggest strengths as a competitor and your biggest weaknesses as a competitor? That can be from like physique standpoint, but also like how your prep goes and, you know, how you manage everything and that kind of stuff.
Strengths? Okay, I guess we'll go physique route. Upper body's pretty on point. Waist is small, like the shape is there.
Yep.
And then, so my first show, my legs were really big, which I just randomly coaching myself decided, oh, they're too big and I need to simmer them down. So then I spent a couple years shrinking them. And then last year they ended up looking like wieners on stage. So I was like, hey, obviously took that too far. So now I'm just trying to get back up, and I should be able to be pretty on par soon, relying on muscle memory right now.
Yeah.
I guess so. Mental strengths are that I don't cheat on my diet, I guess. I do what needs to be done. I don't skip cardio. So I can coach myself and I can listen to myself. So that's really important if you were trying to take that route.
For sure.
And then I guess the struggle, I guess it all kind of comes down to self-coaching, but seeing yourself for what you actually look like, because we never think we're lean enough at the end of prep, and you have to be able to subjectively see yourself as being lean enough so that you can fill yourself out properly and not end up flat on stage, which I have done. So never make the same mistake twice.
Yeah. It sounds like just over the course of your career, you've kind of seen a lot from yourself, right? You've seen highs and lows and good and bad, which is super valuable, right? Because it's all learning, right? You'll only ever get better.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I've messed up enough times in enough ways that like I'm really truly running out of things that I can do wrong. Perfect. So it's only going to get better.
No, that's huge though, right? Because that's how you get better, right? Is you make mistakes, you screw up. Like, you know, I've done shows where when I was first getting into it, we cut out water and I didn't know any different, but looking back, I looked like shit, or like eating certain foods at certain times gave me this positive result, which now we can use moving forward, right? Like it's all a learning experience. And that's where it gets hard with competitors for the first time is you don't know, right? And they come to coaches hoping for like the perfect plan, but we don't know your body any better than you do at this point. So it's a lot of, you know, throwing at the wall and trying to figure out what sticks.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. When it comes to coaching, are you more passionate about competitors and the competing side of it, or like a general health and wellness side of it? Because I think prep and health and wellness, I don't know if they exactly line up.
Yeah, definitely not. So I'd say that's very opposite ends of the spectrum. One's to get better and one's to like, you know, try to get to, just the healthiest unhealthy state that you can. But I do love coaching competitors. That's definitely my passion. They're just, the people in themselves are so much more driven. You don't have to ask them for their check-ins. That you don't worry about them just, you know, falling off their plan. They know what they want and they're going to do what it takes to get there. They don't cheat on their diets. So yeah, definitely competitors.
There's a personality type that usually comes along with that too, right? And if you're kind of that personality, you usually jive pretty well with them, I find too. Like, like outside of like just as a, I don't want to say like a friendship, but you know what I mean? Like you kind of just jive a little bit better when you're both like, okay, this is the job, this is what we need to do, you're going to do it. And they say yes, and you're good, and you're happy, and you go on.
Yeah. They can usually take a lot more too in terms of bluntness and everything else, right?
Yeah, for sure. This was an interesting one. What is the biggest kind of issue you see in the competitive landscape today? Whether that be competitors, shows, coaching, like what do you kind of observe and you're like, that kind of sucks?
I don't know. I can't really
Nothing jumps
think
out
of
at you?
anything.
That's good then. That's a very good observation then. There's nothing.
Yeah, I think it's pretty well run.
Yeah, I think with anything, right, there's going to be good and bad, right? There's going to be good and bad coaches. There's going to be shows that could be run a little bit better. But as a whole, I think overall things are probably working out all right.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you worry about there being some politics. And I feel like I've seen that.
Right.
Although I don't feel like it's super common, but it definitely does happen.
Yeah, I think it probably, like, at the higher level, it would be more because there's money and sponsorships and that kind of stuff. Like, I think there's some Arnold or Olympia winners maybe that just had some strings pulled to help sway it that way. But I think at our level, the amateur level, there's probably not as much.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess another thing that I would say is an issue is that with natural shows, for us truly natural competitors, we really wish that they would test everybody.
Don't get me started. We'll be here all day.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't need to get into that, but...
Yeah, we won't get into that because I will be here all day. Okay, the last question, and it's a good one. Your top 3 tips for aspiring bikini athletes like yourself.
Don't get ahead of yourself. Make sure that you think that you look great in your off season. Make sure you're big enough because you're gonna lose quite a bit of that, and you don't want to end up being skinny fat on stage. Make sure your head's in a good place because any body image issues that you have are going to get a million times worse. 2 points good enough.
Anything as far as like show day, what they should kind of prepare for?
I mean, I'd say work with a coach for sure, so that you don't have to worry about everything.
Yep.
Show day, yeah, just make sure that you take that last week. Sorry?
Be on time.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah, be on time. Do what they tell you at the registration check-in. Yeah, have fun. Do it for fun.
Practice your posing as well. Put a lot of effort into that. Don't start posing like 2 weeks out and then all of a sudden be like, shit, I'm not a good poser.
Yeah, make sure that you can do your routine with your eyes closed in your sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, because people forget that on stage, the judges don't care what you did for cardio or how few carbs you ate or what you looked like at 10 weeks out. At the end of the day, it's a posing game, right? So if you can't pose, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, and remember one thing, that once the judges see something, an angle, anything, they can't unsee it. So make sure that they never see stuff that they're not supposed to.
That's good. That's a good point. All right. That's all I got for you for questions and answers. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, anytime. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we got nothing but free time, so maybe we can do this again in a week or 2.
Yeah, for sure.
Plug all your Instagram and stuff. Where can people find you?
Find me at Colby VDE_fit on Instagram.
All the V's and all the E's. It'll be linked. Yes. It'll be linked down below, so you guys can go give her a follow. And again, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice chatting with you.
Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.